Bacon is My Podcast would like to thank BarkBox, Fresh Clean Teas,
Poddex, Paramount Plus, Legacy Sports Supplements,
our patrons over on patreon.com/baconismypodcast. For more of the show, extra episodes, extra shows, check us out over there. See if it's something you want to be a part of. You guys keep the show running. And most of all, we would like to thank all of you. Thank you so much. Always remember to ask yourself,
hashtag what's your bacon?
Bacon! Bacon is my podcast! Bacon! Bacon! Bacon is my... Bacon! Bacon is my podcast! Bacon! Bacon is my...
So...
what's up, bud?
I was saying so.
You were saying so.
Oh!
Bacon is my podcast! Don't you dare! I can't take that. That's like, I listen to the New Day pod.
Yeah, that's great.
And it's awesome. And so I can't, I mean, they don't do that intro anymore.
Right.
But now they do live from a Zoom call.
Yeah.
But shout out to the New Day pod because I'm a listener.
Yeah, so am I.
Super awesome.
I enjoy it.
Yeah.
They're great. They're so good. But they're part of WWE.
Yeah.
We're not here with somebody WWE today.
No. Today we have a really, really awesome interview. One of my favorites, honestly, that we've ever done with Nick Aldis.
Yeah. NWA Worlds Heavyweight Champion. You never said that. You always said World Heavyweight Champion. It's the World's Heavyweight Champion.
Is it pluralized?
Yes, it is.
I don't know.
No. Apostrophe S.
Is it?
It's
on
not
the belt?
pluralized.
On the title belt?
Yeah.
It says Worlds.
The World's Heavyweight Champion. If you look it up on the interwebs,
I'm gonna look it up right now.
It will say Nick Aldis, NWA World's Heavyweight Champion.
I'm gonna look up the title belt.
NWA World's.
Is that how you spell that?
Yeah.
NWA.
Well, don't put NWA because then the rap group comes up.
Well, I'm putting NWA title belt because I'm gonna look it up and I'm gonna see what it says on it. You, my friend, are absolutely correct.
I am absolutely correct because it's the World's Heavyweight Champion. For the past 2 hours,
James Peter Garavac,
has sounded like an idiot every time he brought that up.
Have been absolutely, unequivocally, positively, totally wrong. And you, sir, are right.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Everybody gets one.
That's true.
But as he was saying, it's probably one of our favorite interviews that we've done, hangouts that we've done.
Yeah.
Nick Aldis, super cool guy.
Really cool guy.
Down to earth. I mean,
I love.
It was just super cool.
As you guys are listening,
a lot of fun.
Pay attention to a couple things as you're listening because he did say a couple things that I think are very poignant. I really loved his answer when we were talking to him about what, as a person that grew up in England and then moved to America and has been here for the past 11 years, what English traits he kept and what American traits he adopted.
Yeah.
His answer to that, I think, is really, really cool because it's something that I also think is a great American quality. Yeah. That I don't know if it's uniquely American. I don't want to kind of try and come off pompous and say that, but just from the way he spoke, I think that it's really cool that he kind of thinks it is, and I agree. I think there's a certain hustle aspect to it. You guys will have to check it out and listen to it. Yeah. But man, what a cool guy! And
he too was flying solo tonight. Just as I am recording this podcast. He had the chillins.
Yep.
I had the chillins.
Yep.
And we just made it work.
Yeah, his son makes a quick appearance.
Yeah.
A completely uninterested appearance.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
You know, who cares about
fantastic.
us?
Well, you know, he's been to Wembley.
Yeah.
We are not that.
Yeah, this is small space.
But if you want to hear from somebody, and I mean, this is what our podcast is all about. If you want to hear from somebody that is passionate about what they do and putting everything into what they do and talks about it with passion,
loves his business.
Yeah. Check it out. Check him out. And we're going to get to it now.
Wait.
Well, yeah.
Now. And we are here. Once again.
Yep.
This week we have NWA Worlds Heavyweight Champion. We've got the founder of Legacy Sports Nutrition and a dude who has his own suit line.
Yeah.
This guy's doing everything. Ladies and gentlemen,
busy
Mr. Nick Aldis. What's going on, sir?
I'm doing very well. You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking some time to hang out with us.
For the past few weeks, you've been hearing about Legacy Sports Nutrition because we now have a promo code, which is awesome because they don't just hand those out to anybody.
They do not.
It feels kind of nice.
So if you go to legacysubs.com, you can check out everything that is on there and, you know, fill your cart. And with the promo code BACONPOD, you can get 10% off your entire order.
But enough
everything. 10% off everything.
There's that southern twang.
Yeah.
That's picking that up from.
Are you developing a southern twang?
My accent's all over the place now. It's one of the occasional things that, like, so if somebody tries to like troll me on, you know, social media, it's like your stupid fake American accent. Like I promise you, it's not a fake American accent. It's just a weird hybrid accent from the fact that I'm a transplant from rural England who's lived in the South now for like 11 years. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
How much of a culture shock was that when you moved over?
Well, when I first moved, first place I moved to was Clearwater, Florida, which I loved. Like, it was, you know, but you know, back then, obviously I was working for TNA, and so it was the choice was pretty much Florida. I just didn't want to live in Orlando because I thought, well, if I'm going to move to Florida, I want to be near the beach. I want to be near the ocean. And a lot of my friends were in WWE developmental at the time at FCW. So they were all in Tampa. So aside from all, like, I had friends in 2 places. Well, 3 if you include Nashville, I suppose. But like, I basically, when I came to the States, I was 22, 23. I knew nobody in anywhere besides Nashville, Orlando, or Tampa Bay. And I actually went to visit Nigel McGuinness. And he was living in Largo at the time. And we went to Clearwater Beach, and I just remember like being in the ocean at Clearwater Beach and just like looking around and just seeing like hot chicks everywhere. Like, the water's like a bath, like the sun's shining, like, and I look at, it was me and Doug Williams, you know, because we were tag team at the time, and I just remember looking at Doug and like shaking, and Doug was like, you know, he looked at me as, you're going to move here, aren't you? I was like, 100%.
Immediately.
Like, well, because we'd already been talking about it. I was renegotiating, when they first brought me in, they were flying me in and out from England, which was just brutal on my body. You know, it was like,
I bet. How long did you do that?
Like a year.
Oh, wow.
Almost a year. Like, but at the time when I first started, I had no choice because I still had a lot of commitments in the UK with gladiators and appearances and, you know, acting stuff, and so it was never really brought up. It was like, we'll fly you in for TV tapings and stuff like that, and then I just got to a point where Bob Ryder, rest his soul, he knew that I was over it, like, but he also, he sort of sneakily told me, hey, when I send you your flight details, by the way, if you go right down to the bottom, you'll always see how much we spent on the flights. So you might want to just kind of keep that in mind when you're, like, in other words, he was basically smartening me up about how to negotiate for a better contract, because I basically then turned around to the office and went, you guys spent like 55 grand on flights for me last year. Like that doesn't seem to make any sense. So why don't you take that number, you know, and add it to a goal, and I'll move to Florida, you know. And they were just kind of like, oh yeah, okay. Like, so then I was like, cool, man. And like I said, I was 22. Like I was like, I had an apartment in Clearwater. I was like going to the beach every day, going to the gym every day, like, you know, going to strip clubs every night. Like Davari was my roommate. Like, well, I was like, this is the best time ever.
Living the life, yeah.
Best time ever.
And I can attest that my wife has family or had family down in Clearwater Beach, and it's awesome. It is really awesome. It's nice. It's away from like the craziness of Orlando and the tourism and all that stuff. It's a great spot.
Yeah. No, I had the best time ever. And then, but yeah, after I met Mickey and we started dating and got more serious, it was kind of like, well, I guess I'll move to Virginia because that's where, you know, because how was I going to win that battle? Like,
yeah,
right.
Hey, why don't you move to Clearwater where you have no family and, you know, and everything, because I like living here. So yeah.
I think living there because of the strip clubs is a hard sell for a girl you're trying to get with.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be.
Yeah.
It can be.
Yeah.
So, so they were flying you across and everything, but you've now been in America for however many years. So,
what are we out? 2021. So 11 years.
11 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I relocated in 2010. I started working in TNA in 2009, but I relocated in 2010.
So is there like, what's the most, like if you could put your finger on it, what's the most like English quality you kept and what's the most American quality you gained?
That's a good question. I think I've always had what I would deem to be American qualities, in the sense that I feel like I always lived with this thought, and this is certainly unusual for, especially where I grew up in England. It's not the prevailing mentality at all, and I never felt like I fit in there, and for that reason. But I always had the mentality of like, why not me? Mm-hmm. Right? Like someone's gonna do it. Like you know, and it was sort of, I think I never lost that sort of childlike kind of self-belief, that, hey, you know, I know it's like corny, and every version of this has been said in some way, shape, or form. But I think I always lived with this belief that it can be done. Like, right. Yeah. It's not necessarily always going to just sort of present itself to you, but it can be done. Like, you know, the only way you can really guarantee an outcome is if you give up, right? Like in any other way, it's like there's always something. So I think I've always had that sort of American sort of, which I always believed is the prevailing American mentality of like, we can do better. You know, like it can, like, why not me? It can be done. I'll do it.
Yeah.
But I think at the same time, I think I definitely have a more British sense of humor, which is British people. We take the piss out of each other, right? Like it's what in America, you know, it's definitely become a bit more acceptable in American culture from what I can see, like, but what Americans sort of refer to as like roasting. Right. But that's just that's a typical sort of prevailing sense of humor in Britain. Like we're more than happy to we'll make fun of each other, but it's with the understanding that like you can make fun of me too.
Right.
Yeah. I think in America it's funny because I think you have that, but you have that in certain, like, maybe not certain industries, but certain kinds of people that tend to go for certain things, like entertainment, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're musicians, and so like I've never not been in a band where we roast each other constantly. You know, and it seems like that happens a lot.
Everybody has their time in the barrel, and, you just have to know that. And if you don't, like you learn it really quick. Like the people who give you that reaction, they're the ones you have to break down.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like I've always had a fairly thick skin when it comes like it. If someone makes fun of me, like even if it's someone I don't know, if it's genuinely funny, like even if it is something that's a bit like, oh man, you got me, like I'm still gonna appreciate that was a funny joke.
Well,
it's only when people just shit on you that is when I'm sort of just like, okay, well that was uncalled for, and like you're unhappy. You're obviously unhappy,
right?
So, I think that. And social media kind of makes that sense of humor a little challenging because tone is lost, and context is lost, and there's always going to be someone who's just looking for something to fucking try to get you with.
Right.
So then it's like, especially like, and I'll go down a rabbit hole here, but you can always and I'm sure that I've probably got many people like this in my life, in my career, where, especially being in Orlando all that time in TNA, where I was just like, I'd be out and just hammered and like not giving a shit and like just, say whatever came into my head. Right. But, I've always had a healthy, like, I'm a businessman first and foremost. Like so with that in mind, I completely appreciate fans, paying fans.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're some schmuck who's like downloading the shit for free illegally, and you're only coming to like the free tapings, and then you're spending all this time going like, everyone pay attention to me and what I think, and then fuck off. Like no one cares.
My opinion's awesome.
Yeah, right. Like, just because I said, hey, I'm going to be appearing at so-and-so on such and such a date, that wasn't an invitation for you to give me unsolicited career advice. Fuck off. And it's like, they can have no manners at all. Mm-hmm. Like you could have had like the longest day ever. You've got shit going on at home. You're stressed, whatever, no one knows. Right. And then some dickhead can just be like, hey, sign this for me. And I'll be like, no, like not like that, but now that person is like, all right, now it's payback time. Right now, every chance they get, he doesn't care about his fans. He's an asshole. It dawned on me a couple of years ago that they're obviously unhappy, but they don't need to that doesn't mean I have to let them make me unhappy too.
Right.
And it kind of, and it completely changed my, my entire sort of approach to social media. But anyway, to your point about the American qualities and British qualities, it's funny because I like to think that I have a little bit more of a British groundedness, like realism, cynicism. My wife and I, that will often be the point of contention in some of our disagreements. Will be like where she'll be like, "Oh, you don't be negative," and I'm going like, I'm not being negative, I'm being realistic. Like that. Yeah. But at the same time, compared to the kind of people where I came from, they consider me like a pie in the sky.
Right, you're a dreamer.
Right. I'm sure they mocked me relentlessly about what I wanted to do with my life, and the fact that I've been able to achieve what I have, and look, I'm not suggesting that I'm some massive success story, but I've done all right. It's like, to them, that's like it's mind-boggling. Yeah. Because I came from one of those places that is very much one of those sort of like no one ever gets out of here type places.
Yeah.
So I think I like to think that I have a nice sort of middle ground.
Yeah.
Well, I think you probably had to like you're successful and you are. You're being humble and saying like, not to say I'm a big success, but man, you make a living doing something you love. That's success.
That's true.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
All right, we got to take a quick time out. As you can probably tell by now, Jim and I, we're t-shirt guys. And we're always looking for the most comfortable and best fitting t-shirts possible when it comes to ourselves or our merch. Sometimes they're soft and they unravel in a few washes. Sometimes they're durable, but they feel like sandpaper on your nipples, and it's just not our thing. Well, maybe it's Jim's thing, but it's definitely not my thing. And sometimes you clean your shirts, and from sweating at work or on stage, they just kind of get all funky even after you clean them. Well, Fresh Clean Tees is a solution for all your t-shirt woes. With multiple styles and colors, they keep you looking so fresh and so clean. Go to baconismypodcast.com, click on the sponsors tab, and click on the Fresh Clean Tees link, and start looking great and feeling great without spending a fortune. Again, that's baconismypodcast.com. Click on the sponsors tab, then scroll to that Fresh Clean Tees link to start looking comfortable and stylish at affordable prices.
Even though you get a huge peek behind the curtain with wrestling nowadays, with the way that social media is and all that kind of stuff, people still are just dumbfounded with the fact that people from AEW can be friends with people in WWE.
That's way. So funny to me, yeah.
Yeah,
that one's,
where do they come from?
Or fans aren't allowed to like more than one thing. That drives me. We get that in music too.
The territorial sort of, and I will say that is unfortunately something I would identify as a very American trait.
I can see that. Yeah,
and I certainly don't want to get into this too deeply, but it's indicative of kind of the political structure of America with the two-party system. It's everything. If you look, and maybe it's because the spectator sees more of the game, you know what I mean? But because I grew up witnessing one type of political structure, which, believe me, has plenty of its own flaws and issues as it is.
Right.
But then coming here and seeing a totally different one, and there are parts of it that I really like. That in principle, I go, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. But then but now, as it's sort of gone on, you sort of go, okay, this may not be the best system in the current era. This system that was derived from ancient Rome, may have made sense once upon a time, but it might need a little
things have to adapt and update.
But it's created a situation where, if you think about it, it's like for everything there's this kind of binary, you're either one side or the other. It's Coke or Pepsi, there's always a sort of and I said, it's funny, I was having this conversation today with someone where we said, there's always going to be a certain amount of people who are just engineered to want to like the other thing besides the most popular one. It's just the way some people are wired. And that's great. We don't, we certainly don't want monopolies. We certainly don't want
it fosters competition, which is good.
Competition is good for business and all of that shit. And it's we're just,
but it's also rising tide lifts all.
But no one's asking you to pledge allegiance to
exactly
which group of guys in tights fighting each other in a ring on TV is there's the one and only. You can pick whichever one you want.
It's always a weird versus thing, and I wonder if when during the Monday Night War era, if that kind of helped foster that along, because there was that pot shots at each other thing. But I also just think we're in a
it's different.
Yeah,
way different.
But dude, people have been, that era, that period of time has been so romanticized.
Oh yeah.
Historically, that I feel like what happened is this next generation have just been desperate to have their own one. But I think that but because it was such a remarkable period that it's fascinating and it's fun to keep going back and reliving it, and now it's almost they had a whole second sort of bite of the apple by sort of going, and here's what's happened behind the scenes, so it's a whole thing all over again. And if you think about it now, when fans are discussing that period, there is as much, if not more, discussion about behind the scenes as there is about the actual shows itself. So it's that completely changed the culture of the business. Like by the time I came in, it was totally expected and understood that like everyone's going to just shoot on everything that's happening pretty much as it's happening. So I think that's why when we started doing the NWA stuff in 2017, my input really was basically, why not just base it on what's real?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't dispute the fact. Like, let's take me and Cody, for example. You can, like, people are already going to sort of make up their minds about all these different conflicts that may or may not exist between us. And so they sort of go, oh, he's probably jealous of Cody because of, you know, Cody's had more to. Okay, yep, that's accurate. Like, of course, right. I have a healthy envy of Cody's success. But Cody might be jealous of Nick because he's bigger and, you know, he's got a better physique, or because he's got the belt that Cody always wanted. You know, yes, that could very well be an accurate thing. So we just played on all of those things instead of going like, oh, you know, you tried to run me over with your car. You know?
Yeah, like
you know, it's like, no, you didn't. You know, like
that's always the thing that takes me out of it. Honestly,
right. Yeah.
That always takes me out of it, because it's like, I don't have to, nor do I want to know all the ins and outs of behind the scenes. And it always blew my mind the minute I ever had a friend talk to me about someone's contract negotiation. I was like, right. Why do you know that? And who cares? Like, right. Why do I don't care what he's getting paid. I care what he does to entertain me on TV. Right. You know,
yeah, but
why does he want this championship? Why does he, you know, that's what I want to.
But if you use if you use it the right way, like Punk did in 2011,
yeah, Punk.
And he's a great example of a guy who understood, like, well, look, there's an insatiable appetite for what's really happening anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I can just play off of it, and then that can become the backdrop for this story that's still, at the end of the day, it's about creating a moment in time.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's really been my focus, was like, look, I have made more money in the last couple of years than I ever made in my career. And I haven't been on TV. I haven't been on like traditional, conventional TV in like 5 years.
Right. Right.
But because I've sort of managed to create a situation where, like, if I'm judicious about when I wrestle and when I appear and who I wrestle and the, you know, the way that it's done, it's like, I can get enough people to be invested enough where it's a moment in time for those people. So then it's
you guys did it a really interesting, creative way too, with like kind of bringing the NWA back to prominence.
Yeah.
Right. Like it was really cool. I thought how you took the idea of like what a world champion is, and that champion that defends his championship everywhere. And you don't really get that.
Don't start on that. You'll get all the Twitter trolls who are mad at me for not wrestling more, even though I get
for not wrestling more. Right.
Like,
well, it was just cool because you would show up. You know, you wrestled on you won the championship at a CZW event. Right. You know, like you wrestled in AEW. All these things where it wasn't like, to see you, I have to watch the NWA show, and I have to. You know, you guys didn't wait to create that. You created a
buzz
story and a buzz.
Yeah, and you told a story around it. Yeah, and the funny thing about that is that a lot of that just happened by chance, because
really,
I'll give you the truncated version, but when I first sort of agree with Billy, like, all right, I'll give this a go. I showed at the time, it was right around the time that McGregor and Mayweather had their fight, and then a month later Canelo and Triple G had their fight. And I'm a big Triple G fan, so I was going to get that Canelo Triple G fight, but I bought those two pay-per-views, and they were about a month apart. And I remember because there was a little bit of like saltiness between like HBO and Showtime and all that, you know, HBO kind of like taking.
I remember that, yeah.
And it was like, I'm a big HBO. I loved HBO boxing. I always thought HBO boxing was the sort of pinnacle of sports presentation, sports television. But I remember having this conversation with Billy where I said, I'm by no means like a big boxing fan. I am a boxing fan, but I'm not, you know, I've done stuff for Fite where like I've sat there with like Dan Raphael and, you know, guys like that, where I'm way out of my depth, you know, I'll say it right up front, like I'm a fan only, right? Like I'm not an aficionado, but I remember making the point, like I just bought 2 pay-per-views back to back in a month, purely based on like the hype for it. They didn't have a TV show. Right. You know, there wasn't episodic like boxing. Yeah. You know, it wasn't like, oh, he boxed this guy and then he boxed another guy and then if he beats this guy in a boxing match, he gets to box this guy. It was like, no, we've made this fight and this is how we got it set up, and now we're going to watch these guys train and prepare for each other, and they're going to talk about why it's important and why the other guy, you know, why it's so important for them to win. And obviously Mayweather and McGregor, they did it a whole different way, but they were both presented in 2 completely different ways. And I remember showing these pieces to them, to Billy and Lagana, being like, look, here's one direction where they're going full on like pro wrestling, right? Like, you know, the sort of money and the suits and the sort of full, like, and it's like, look at me, like talking shit to each other and like, you know, having pull aparts every time they do these press conferences and everything like that. And then there's Canelo and Triple G, who are very respectful, very professional, but they're like, but everyone else is building it for them because they're going, these are the 2 best guys. This guy from Europe hasn't got his due in years. He's been like knocking people the fuck out, like all over the world. And he finally, like, no American promoter would give him the time of day. He finally came to America, and now he's just like, he's become this like enigma, this Triple G. And then there's Canelo, who's like the biggest star in Mexico. And the US, to be fair, because of the massive Hispanic following. But they're going to fight. And it's like a classic middleweight encounter, like harping back to the days of like Hagler and Hearns and stuff, you know, and people are going like, man, this is the one. It's like 2 gunslingers. And so I remember sort of looking at both of those and going, see, these are the 2 classic ways to build a prize fight. It's either 2 like completely outrageous, larger than life personas, and this town ain't big enough for the both of us, or it's the 2 fastest guns, and it's like, hey, no hard feelings, strictly business.
You need to find who's the best.
Someone's got to win and someone's got to lose. And I'm like, you tell that, people will never listen to, and remember, it's me who told you. No one will ever get tired of those stories.
100%.
When that story is done right, it works every time. And that was the 10 pounds of gold era, and I loved it because I did it with Tim Storm, I did it with Cody, I did it with Marty, you know, I did it with PJ Black. I did it with, you know, I could do it with anyone. Because and then I did it again with Mike Bennett, like in the pandemic era, because all you got to do is go, hey, give us 15 minutes of your time to emotionally invest in this guy. And the beauty of it is, the longer I went, the more times I pulled this off, the easier it got for me, because now I don't have to do as much to really promote myself.
Right.
You know,
you're the established.
We can spend most of the time building up the other guy. Because it's like
someone's got to topple you.
This guy might be the one. And it's like, again, you know, so you get these fucking sort of you know, self-appointed experts who have never wrestled anywhere and never booked anywhere and never drawn any money, never promoted anything, but they're sitting there going, oh, they should have done this and they should do that, and they should do this. And it's like based on you have 0 evidence to support these opinions. You have zero metrics to back up what you're saying, because that what you're talking about applies to Attitude Era television wrestling. It doesn't apply to a prize fight approach to wrestling where the majority of the, you know, all your eggs are in one basket, which is pay-per-view. So like, you know, I hate to break it to those people, but like Floyd Mayweather made more money than any boxer in history, and he's undefeated. You know what I mean? Like, because it got to a point where maybe this guy's the one.
Right. Who's going to do it? Who's going to do it?
Right. But then over time, there were people on the other side who went, no, Floyd's going to be undefeated forever. Like,
right. No one's going to be the one.
Guess what? They both bought it.
Don't go away. We'll be back right after these messages.
On your fitness journey, extraordinary results require extraordinary action. Your training and quality of nutrition is definitely key, but adding a well-developed nutritional supplement protocol will push your results to the next level. And that's where Legacy Sports Nutrition comes in. Legacy Sports Nutrition believes that everything you want to achieve in life can be aided by optimizing human performance. All of their formulas have been professionally developed for both men and women and are made to the highest quality standards. Legacy Sports Nutrition is a brand founded and operated by athletes who have been performing at world-class levels for decades. And when I say athletes who perform at world-class levels, I truly mean it. This is NWA Worlds Heavyweight Champion Nick Aldis' company, so you know these items are absolutely championship quality. Go to LegacySups.com and use the promo code BACONPOD and you'll receive 10% off your order. Once again, that's LegacySups.com. Use the promo code BACONPOD for 10% off your order. Set your goals, push your limits, and leave your legacy.
And we're back from commercial that was pre-planned and ready to go the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, we talked about it ahead of time, and we realized that, you know, people have a tendency to just tune out when they see you seamlessly throw to commercials. You know, what works better and what really catches people off guard is if you're just mid-sentence and then it just boom.
That's it.
Yeah.
Commercial, because now you're going, wait, what was the rest of the story? What was the payoff?
What happened? Yeah.
Okay, fine. I'll get my car insurance with Geico. Shit.
Yeah, that's hopefully that works for us. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, you know what's important is that the people that are having a hard time kind of concentrating and getting in there is they should go check out some Total Mind, because that just came out and that can help them stay focused and help them
exactly.
Yeah.
Nootropics are all the rage, and yes, if you're worried about brain fog or concentration issues or memory issues, then Total Mind has a blend of vitamins and minerals and nootropics, including DMAE, which helps slow down the degenerative process of your brain and helps boost your cognitive function. So
if you like we do, drink a healthy amount of whiskey, you're constantly destroying your brain functions, and this will help a little bit.
hopefully slow down the process.
Definitely can't hurt. Definitely can't hurt.
But
yeah, sorry. I think what I was going to say was, and again, I went off on a tangent. I have a tendency to do that, but
that's okay.
The reason that we sort of fell into all that stuff with the 10 pounds of gold stuff and the traveling champion thing was because at the time that I won the title the first time, I just happened to have all those bookings already in my schedule. So I already had bookings in Europe. I already had some in Australia. I want to say maybe, I think, well, I was definitely already talking to Inoki about China, but then after I won the title, it was like, oh, we're definitely doing that. So it was next thing you know, it was like, oh, cool. Like I've got title defenses set up on 4 different continents. Like that's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, then people started going, oh, this is so cool. Like they're doing the whole traveling champion thing. And it was kind of like, yeah, we're doing that.
That's great.
Well, yes. Yeah,
this was all planned.
It's funny because I was going to ask about that. So, leaving Impact and the Global Force, all that stuff, and you end up with Billy Corgan and this new NWA concept and stuff, and now you got the traveling champion, which is awesome, brings it back to the old territory days and stuff like that. But going into to NWA from a couple of established companies and stuff, were you worried at all, going into, okay, this is something brand new, and obviously he was building the company on your shoulders?
You know what's funny is that when I think back to that period, and I think because I had no expectations, it was actually one of the healthiest things I could have done, because there was nothing promised, you know. There was no sort of like, we're gonna do this thing big, we're gonna have TV, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, you know. I mean, you hear this stuff over and over again in this business,
Sure,
right? With these people, you know. And when I realized that, wow, they actually listened to me, and we tried this sort of docuseries style presentation, sort of making all of the emphasis, instead of trying to get people to watch another wrestling show with a ring and a bunch of guys having matches, we're going to get you to watch 10 minutes on two guys, and just two guys only. And we're going to ask you to watch that, you know, a few different episodes of this, so that by the time you finish, you've invested this time, now you really want to see just this one match.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're going to do it one title at a time, kind of thing. You know, we'll remind everybody, and you know, it was Billy. I remember Billy saying basically to me, he goes, "Look, I've bought 3 assets. I've got 3 assets. The way I look at it, I've got the name, I've got the belt, and I've got you." Like, that was his sort of, you know, in his mind, like, these are my 3 assets. So it's like, this is the best way to, you know. And then pretty quickly we realized that we had another asset in Tim Storm.
Yeah.
You know, so it was like, wow, this guy's like such a compelling character in this type of presentation.
Yeah.
Like, he's so earnest and so authentic and so genuine. And that's where the whole thing sort of came from, was based on the way Tim performed, for lack of a better term, but it wasn't a performance. Like, that's the point. And so then and because of that, like, I felt the freedom to be real too. And next thing you know, it's like, these are 2 totally different guys who are going after the same thing. I'm interested in this because people didn't feel like they were trying to be sold anything.
Right.
And the other smart thing that Billy did was acquire the rights to use the Houston library, so we could just, and you know, that's been you know, it's been helpful, because it was just that way to just constantly reinforce to people, this championship has a lot of value.
Right.
Yeah. Like, this is the you know, one. in case you forgot, here's Harley Race, here's Dusty Rhodes, here's Ric Flair, here's Terry Funk, you know, just not, you know, not to a point where it's obnoxious, but just enough where it was like, yeah,
this has some lineage to it, and it's important.
People would say early on, like, are you guys going to change the belt? And I'd be like, would you change the Stanley Cup?
Why?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. I love that the design and the belt is the same one, because you can look back.
Why would
it's lineage.
Why would you change it?
Yeah, well, why would the person holding it not want to have a picture of them holding the same belt, and then you can find a picture of Harley Race holding the same belt?
Or in my case, like, when Harley, you know, obviously I trained with Harley in 07 and stuff like that, but when Harley, you know, felt comfortable to sort of give me his endorsement and blessing, it was like, hey, let's take a picture with you holding your belt and I'll hold mine, because he still had his old version of it, you know. And it's like,
that's so awesome.
You know,
so cool.
You can't buy that.
Nope. What was that like for you? Like I mean, I know you trained with him and you knew him and all that, but that moment, you know,
very gratifying, because Harley, he, you know, look, it's, I don't want to harp on it too much, but it's safe to say that the period of the NWA prior to Billy acquiring it was not necessarily its finest hour. And it was quite well understood that Harley was not gonna, he was kind of like, I'm, he's not lending his name to any of this. So I never, so it was not something that I ever pressed. And it just through the work, we did the work. And then by the time, people forget that by the time Cody and I are all in, we hadn't even been I hadn't even been working with Billy for a year.
Yeah.
Like that was, kind of technically started doing stuff with him in like September or October of 2017. And then by September 1st of 2018 was all in.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that. That's such a short time.
But the build for that started in like what, May?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a long time.
Like I remember when we did the thing in London where I sort of came and accepted that was another thing, we back then, because when you was, I read a lot of business books and I'm a big Richard Branson guy, and Richard Branson always talks about like, I don't have one big company. I have, 400 small companies. Because if you stay small, you can stay agile and you can do more quickly. That you can think of an idea and you haven't got to run it up a obnoxious chain of command and try to figure out all the moving parts. You can just go do it, right? And that was kind of like, so they do this. Obviously, we figure out that we're gonna do all in, and me and Cody's gonna be the match, and I happened to be booked on the day that they did the press conference in Chicago. So instead of going, oh my God, like what should we do? It was like, we'll use that. We'll make that part of the deal. Right. So Billy's at the press conference, but I'm not. So I go, well, if I'm me and I'm, if this is a prize fight, I'm pissed. So I go like, I don't care what you said. I didn't agree to do it.
Right. Yeah.
And so then it's like, well, then Ring of Honor are asking me to do these shows in the UK. And we go, that's where I should show up. And because it's such an obnoxious, when you think it's such an obnoxious, like kind of over the top thing to do. Like, wait, you flew all the way to London just to accept a challenge, just because, but it's ego, but it's the ego because like, because I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it when I'm ready. I'm going to do it on my terms. And it was just like that thing of
the champion.
Right.
It was things like that. It was like that level of commitment that was unique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
definitely.
I always said that I had one chance to get this thing right as the NWA champion and everything, because it's the oldest adage in wrestling, and this is, and again, I'm not trying to sort of claim endorsement from people without merit, but it's why a lot of the old school guys will come up to me and say like, I love what you're doing, and they all say the same thing, because they go, if you believe it, they believe it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's really, that's everything in the business. And honestly, it's if I was, and I'm not referring to any one particular show or brand or type of wrestling or anything like that, but for me, it's probably the thing that's missing the most.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not really anyone's fault. It's just because of the way that the business is executed now. Guys don't really have a chance to sort of believe what they're doing because it's so well understood that everywhere besides here, or in most places, it's so people know the process too well. Yeah, so they go, well, someone told him to say that, someone told him to do that, whereas no one's telling me what to say. Anything I do or say came from my heart,
yeah,
like and I think people can sense that.
I definitely think you're right.
The sense of realism, the sense of sport, it's
authenticity. Yeah. Like we built that, and that was our sort of internal kind of guiding principle all the time was authenticity. You know, always, like, even now, like, you know, obviously now it's obviously the thing has grown, you know, a lot compared to when it was just me and the guy with a camera.
Right.
And we're trying to just kind of work with a certain promoter and be like, okay, here's what we need to do our match kind of thing. Like, but now obviously it's different. But when, yeah, you know, look, we have what we know, there's new talent coming in all the time, and everybody's got their own sort of interpretation of this line of work, and they're all, and you don't want to stifle that. Like, you want people to sort of do it the way they want to do it. But the one thing that I'm always keen to try to encourage, you know, and reinforce with anyone, or, you know, or I'll encourage like Pat or anyone in the office to re-encourage, you know, to reinforce the talent, is like believable, authentic first, you know, like, not because I'm like trying to shit on any other way of doing it, but it's like, that's the thing that sets this particular brand apart.
Right.
Well,
you know,
that's what gets people to invest, I think, you know.
Right.
Like,
if you're I've used this analogy before, so anyone who's hearing this, who's heard other interviews of mine, you know, feel free to groan now, but I always like to use the InNOut Burger analogy, where it's like, there's no way that this company has any chance of beating McDonald's.
Right.
Right. Certainly probably not in my lifetime, you know.
Right.
Not unless some incredibly unforeseen kind of things would happen.
McDonald's has to really mess up.
Right. But McDonald's may not always be the best hamburgers.
Right.
Right. But they're the most popular. They make the best system.
Right. Yeah.
But it's not really about which is best, right? Because it's about which one people buy the most.
Yeah.
Right. But you can be InNOut Burger, where you deliberately are a little less accessible. Right. So that when those of us who don't have an InNOut Burger close to where we live, when we go to the West Coast,
it's a
we go, ooh, InNOut Burger.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
That's when
So
they
it's
open
like
one in a new town. There's lines around the block.
It's just a fucking burger. It's just a burger and fries.
Right.
Because guess what, guys? That's all this business is. Wrestling is burgers and fries. Right. It's just there's about 500 different ways of doing burgers and fries, but it's burgers and fries.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
And so if you and InNOut Burger's whole thing is like, we just do burgers and fries. We don't once a year do a rib, you know, we don't do a fish thing, or we don't do they didn't get into the chicken sandwich wars thing, or at least not that I'm aware of. They go, no.
Right.
We do perfectly done, like, char grilled hamburgers and hand cut fries, and we do it like in a traditional hot grill, some good quality chuck, and here you go.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and that's what I wanted. That's always what I wanted this brand to be. Now, it's not my company, so I can't sit here and promise that it will be that way forever. But whenever I'm performing, like, that's what I'm trying to do, because I'm going, I know what you guys have come to see. Right. You know, like,
yeah.
And that's the way I look at it. And you go, InNOut Burger are a tremendously successful business, and part of their model is that they deliberately don't want to, you know, have an InNOut Burger franchise in every corner of the country and every corner of the world.
They don't want to be everything to everyone.
Well, and they don't, and they want to, because they know that if they have less stores, they have less risk.
Yeah.
But they can also create more. They can create a little more demand and create more.
Right.
They can create more of an aura around their brand and their product.
Sure.
Where it's like, it feels special when you get a chance to see it.
There's some mystery.
Right, and that's,
everybody loves a little mystery.
Yeah.
Take the paper. You know, take Wrestling at the Chase, NWA 73, August 29th on Fite TV pay-per-view.
Nice.
It's the Chase Ballroom in St. Louis. There hasn't been wrestling there since 1984.
Right.
But that was where Ric Flair made a name for himself, Harley Race, all these different people, a who's who, Bruiser Brody, like a who's who of wrestling have wrestled at the Chase. And to those people in St. Louis, they're like, whoa, wrestling at the Chase is back. Like that's a St. Louis like icon, like not just a wrestling thing. Like that's a St. Louis kind of pop culture icon. But what we're looking at for the sort of wider audience, or at least this is my hope, if I'm trying to convince people to buy this pay-per-view, I'm going, yeah, no, look, it isn't going to be this big fancy arena with with LEDs in every conceivable spot and pyro and amazing sound systems and the floor lights up when you tread on it and all. Like that stuff's amazing, but you ain't getting that here. What you're going to get here is you're going to get like a ballroom that looks like it was from the 1950s, but done up in a modern way, delivered it as traditional values, modern delivery. So if you want to see a totally different type of presentation, you know what I mean? If you want the most traditional burgers and fries you can think of,
right?
And you want to see an old school ballroom, that's packed out with people who have come to see wrestling, then yeah, you can buy this pay-per-view. And I promise you, I don't care really if it's your favorite or least favorite or whether you think it's the best or not, but that's a subjective thing anyway, which makes the whole argument completely pointless. But I can promise you this, it will be totally different to anything else that will be on pay-per-view this year. And it's and who knows if this might be a one and done. You might never get to see this again because it took a lot of convincing for the Chase Park Plaza, which hosts presidents and has had Frank Sinatra and Johnny Carson and people like that. And it took a lot of convincing
what's it like
to get them to give wrestling a chance again, because they went, oh, wrestling, that was part of that was part of our old history, Lou Thez and the stuff like that. And then it was it took a lot of convincing, but they and they give it a go, and it's sold out. So let's do it. Let's crush it. But like I say, it's going to be totally different to anything else you will see on a wrestling pay-per-view this year in terms of the look and feel and the atmosphere. And yeah.
We'll be right back.
Hey guys, I got a quick question for you. Are you dog people? If you know anything about us, you know that here at Bacon Is My Podcast, our dogs are our family members, right? We love to give them a little something extra to look forward to every month, get them excited, and that's why we subscribe to BarkBox. So every single month, Bruce, Bane, and Bruno are treated to 2 brand new durable toys, plus uniquely curated packs of treats. It keeps them excited, keeps them engaged, and you never have to go out shopping for stuff. So if you have a 4-legged furry friend that is your favorite alliteration, we got a special deal for you. Just for being a Bacon Is My Podcast consumer, if you head over to baconismypodcast.com and scroll to the sponsors, click on the BarkBox link, you'll get an extra toy in your first order from BarkBox. So head over, once again, baconismypodcast.com, click on the BarkBox link, and spoil your favorite 4-legged furry friend today.
While you're plugging your stuff and paying the bills, we have to pay some bills.
Speaking of businesses, we have a fantastic sponsor that is a small business, and they're called Poddex. And what they are is basically questions. They're interview questions, podcast ideas, conversation starters, icebreakers, things like that for people that might not have diarrhea of the mouth like all of us seem to be able to just talk forever about anything.
Yeah.
They are awesome. They're an awesome company. If you go to poddex.com, they have some cool swag. They got these cool cards. And with the promo code BACON, you can get 10% off your entire order. And Nick Aldis, we would like to have you choose the deck, and we are going to pick a random question for you to answer these cards.
So we have the episode deck. We have interview deck 2. Then there's also the Would You Rather deck and the What the Heck deck.
Ooh. I thought I had it. I thought I had it in the bag. I was going to go for Interview Deck 2 in honor of Mr. Wrestling 2, but then I went, maybe Would You Rather.
That happens to be a fan favorite.
That is a fan favorite.
Yeah, I had a feeling that might be the case. Well, look, like I said, I'm a businessman at heart, promoter at heart. I aim to please, give the people what they want. Jerry Jarrett, the most successful territory promoter of all time, besides Vince McMahon, said, "Hey, never try to outsmart the audience. Give them what they want."
Give them what they want.
There you go.
Now these questions could be G-rated, PG-rated, or PG-13. They don't go much higher than that because they kind of try and
cater to everybody.
Cater to everyone. So
all right. Well, just keep in mind that my 6-year-old son has just joined us. He's because of the internet issues on my phone, which means I'm now in the master bedroom. So D, nice. Say hello.
Hello, sir.
Hey, what's up, dude?
How you doing?
No, he's
not having it.
He's you know what? He's a superstar. He's laying down. He's he's not ready for his close up at the moment.
He's adding podcasts to the bunch of cool things that he's done as a child.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
He's like I was backstage at Wembley Arena, guy. I ain't got time.
Right. Yeah. Go ahead and fan out your cards, guys.
So I'm gonna fan them out, and James is gonna scroll his finger through.
You just tell me when to stop, and we'll get a random question for you.
Stop
right here. All right. This is an easy one. This one's good for the whole family. Okay. Would you rather have your head be too big for your body, or hands that are too small for your size?
I think I could probably make the argument that I already suffer from both of those afflictions as it is. I don't have like alarmingly small hands, but I don't have particularly big hands.
Right.
Like I've got like it's not like people look at them and go, "Oh my God, what is that?" But I think in comparison, they're just. I mean, they're definitely smaller than. I mean, some of the guys I know have got like hands like freaking shovels, and I'm sitting there going like,
well, you do have giant arms. You have giant.
Yeah, I mean, it could be just sort of comparison, but and look, I've got a noggin on me too, so it's. I guess if I had to, I don't know. I guess if I had to, how big are we talking in terms of a big head?
Let's go extremes, man. Let's go extremes. Bobblehead and child hands. Where we going?
Bobblehead or child hand? I'd take bobblehead. You know why? Because everyone on TV has a huge head. Like,
yes.
I've had the privilege of meeting quite a few like real, what I call like genuine celebrities.
Yeah.
And especially the ones who are known for being television hosts. A lot of the time I'm like, look at the head on this guy. Like, I'm not gonna name now, too much respect for them. No, some of these people we're talking about are like national treasures, but like I've met them in like,
hey, you know what?
Christ, like the head on this is like a tombstone. It's a TV head. So like me and my friends have a theory that like you need to have a large head to be successful on television.
Okay.
Well, you
have a memorable face. Right.
Well, speaking of large heads, I
hope this is going somewhere good.
Conan has a large head.
Conan.
Now, you said.
Are you saying Conan?
Conan
O'Brien or Conan?
Not Conan the Barbarian.
Conan O'Brien.
Not Conan the
Barbarian. Yeah.
But I was talking more about Conan, my close personal friend and Mexican legend and booker, and but he's got look, Conan. Look, I was just gonna say, K-Dog's got a pretty sizable head on him.
Does he have a big head on him?
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, you're right. Conan, and I will say Conan O'Brien is actually one of my heroes. I'm a huge fan of Conan. So. Well,
I was bringing it up because you put a post when Conan is stepping down
yes.
from the show, and you would put a post saying that in 2017 you were kind of disillusioned, maybe with the business a little bit, and you were possibly just kind of not into it as much anymore, and he had done a speech that kind of reinvigorated you. Now, I obviously we're not going to go into the whole speech, but can you kind of like summarize like what about that kind of?
So when you look at Conan O'Brien, he's the guy who did everything right.
Yeah.
Right. he is a tremendously accomplished writer. You know, The Simpsons, Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
Like, and then you know, transitions into late night, does tremendously well with his own show, then gets the Tonight Show, and then gets royally shafted.
Yeah.
Like, that whole debacle with Leno and NBC and that whole thing was
bullshit.
One of the, you know, like, and then here's a guy who has the self-awareness and is cool enough to sort of, like he went on 60 Minutes and went, yeah, like, right, I got fucked over and here's how. But then after that, he just kind of went, hey, like, no one's going to feel sorry for me. I made millions of dollars and it's like, you know, it is what it is. But that story could have very well ended up with him just sort of disappearing.
Mm-hmm.
And like, because of the sort of the stigma and the sort of, if he'd have reacted, and it was all based on how he reacted to it. Like, he could have, if he'd have stayed bitter and, you know, and sort of, and really kind of made that his identity, like, that it would have been, you know, it really would have been the end of his career. And instead, he goes, all right, there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat. And he goes off and just tries stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, I'll go do live shows. I'll go do stand-up again. I'll go speak at colleges. I'll go, you know, I'll write this, I'll do that. And, you know, then he winds up on TBS. And again, he's sort of like, he had the wherewithal and the self-awareness to sort of make fun of himself for it and be like, I'm on TBS, you know, but that's what endeared him to, like, and he became the most popular guy with our generation, with young people.
Right. Yeah.
Because he was so irreverent and so, like, he had no pretentiousness.
Yeah.
So it was like, and there's something, I think the thing that struck a chord with me was the fact that when I finished up with TNA, like, I had this, one of the biggest obstacles I had in my career was that I always felt like TNA, even when they went with me as world champion, it was like, there was always this, I always felt like there was this sort of hesitancy, this sort of reluctance to really kind of
get behind you,
because they were always worried that I was going to end up at WWE.
Right.
It was this sort of, because everyone had already sort of written my destiny for me and decided, like, he's going to WWE. He's exactly the kind of guy they want. He's got WWE written all over him and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, no one ever asked me, you know, like, do you want to go? You know, like, it was kind of like, because of that, it sort of ended up creating this weird kind of energy between WWE and me as well. And then, you know, that didn't happen. And it kind of, and at the time, you know, there was a part of me that went, well, okay, it's kind of like, it's like an old territory saying is something to the effect of, you know, once you get to the main event, you're either going over or you're going out.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, if you're not winning, then you're moving on.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was kind of how I felt. Is like, is this what happened with my career? Like, I topped out at TNA and I did everything I could do there, worked every position on the card, wrestled every name guy there, you know, won the world title, main evented shows, the whole thing. Left there, no WWE. Okay, is that it then? You know, like,
right.
And then it was sort of like, and Conan's approach kind of inspired me to go, no, there's, like, it's up to me. I'll write my own destiny. You know, like, there's a lot of different ways to do this. And I think, you know, Cody in a lot of ways is similar, obviously very different circumstances, but like similar sort of situation where, and again, I think that's one of the things that sort of gravitated us to one another, maybe, was this kind of understanding of like, that, you know, I always use this analogy for people. I go, Hulk Hogan didn't grow up wanting to be in the WWF because it wasn't a thing. It was just one territory.
Right.
When he came up, you know, he just wanted to be a big time pro wrestler.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Scott Hall and Kevin Nash have both been, tremendous helps me, especially Kevin. And they always said the same thing too. They were like, we just wanted to be big time pro wrestlers. If you're going to base your entire value on wanting to go work for somebody else and basically saying, well, my entire sense of achievement and happiness is going to be based on someone else's decision, that's a rough way to live.
Yeah.
That's a recipe for heartbreak. And again, I guess in a lot of ways I'm proof of this to a point, at least in my own little way.
Mm-hmm.
If you can get people to believe in what you're doing, you're your own brand.
Yeah.
And that was the sort of inspiration I took from Conan. And I think it was just that sort of realization of like, there are no rules here. You make this shit up as you go along.
Yeah.
If you believe it, they believe it.
That's huge advice for people. I love that. A big wake up for people too. Again, like we're musicians. It's the same thing in the music industry where it's like you're chasing a deal or you're chasing a certain thing, and you're allowing somebody else to tell you you're successful. Whereas if you take control of yourself and you get people to believe in you and you believe in yourself.
I remember being really digging into Macklemore.
Yeah.
His story.
Yeah.
I like some of his stuff. It wasn't like I was a huge fan of his stuff, but like I don't even know how I stumbled across it, but like his story was kind of like that, where he just kind of went like, I don't need a deal.
Right.
I'll make my own deal.
He was one of the ones that kind of proved it. Yeah. He was one of the ones that was kind of like,
right.
Independence is the way.
But like Young Bucks,
yeah, another good one.
Polarizing, sure. Like opinionated, sure. I've known Nick and Matt for a long time, and again, I feel like they're one of the ones who people are always trying to sow this kind of conflict between like me and guys like them, and it's like I'm immensely inspired and proud of those guys on a business level.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
people get confused with who someone is on television, and then who they are,
or they see a guy like me and they assume that because I don't wrestle like them, that I must hate them.
Right. If you're not a high flyer, you must hate high flying wrestling.
I actually really like wrestling guys like them because it's an interesting story to tell.
Right.
But
I
respect those guys because they DIY'd.
Yeah.
They went, we don't need we don't need a vehicle. We'll make our own fucking vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's huge.
When we were all in, this is one of my favorite memories of that show, was I was sitting in the dressing room at All In, and it's like me, Okada, Jay Lethal, the Young Bucks, who are like, running around like lunatics because obviously they're like running the show too. And I just remember saying, remember when we were all sitting in the jabroni trailer at TNA, like showing up that day to see if we were booked or not. Like, you guys have got a match on Explosion, 4 minutes, no one cares, like, no, you've got nothing today. Just sit around and
hang out.
Yeah. And it was like. And now Okada was IWGP champion. Jay's the Ring of Honor champion. I'm the NWA champion. And on this like crazy sold out show that the Young Bucks have like basically promoted and sold out themselves. Like
insane,
it was,
independent show. Yeah.
It was just sitting there going like, hey, nobody would have predicted that.
No.
Yeah.
And something that I wanted to bring it up earlier, but like you going to NWA and doing what you did and working with Ring of Honor and stuff like that. What I don't think a lot of people realize is how instrumental you've been as well in this whole, resurgence of non-WWE product and the resurgence of independent wrestling, but now it's not independent anymore. There's other territory. I wouldn't ever
claim to be instrumental in it. I would say that I think I had good fortunate timing, and I think that I came along after Nick and Matt and Cody and Marty and those guys had really created something unique. I think I was able to come in and sort of almost be like a little turbo booster to that in a way, because it was because those guys were all working for Ring of Honor at the time,
right?
But then when I came in, it was like I don't work for Ring of Honor, but I was kind of like interacting with that world,
right?
So then it really was and then obviously with and Kenny as well. To Kenny's credit, Kenny was with New Japan, and he was able to come in and sort of interact, and so it was like there was a few of us, and I certainly didn't start it, but I guess I did help sort of enhance it and further it, I guess, in my own way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, don't shortchange yourself.
So,
well, you got to be real careful because someone will clickbait this who's trying. Next thing you know, it'll say Nick Aldis takes credit for AEW. It'll say headline. Nick Aldis says AEW was my idea.
Right. Yeah.
Listen, Nick Aldis already called Brock Lesnar McRib, so
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't worry. We got you.
People, I get asked this a lot. People go like, if you could wrestle anyone, who would it be? Brock Lesnar. Like, which one's going to pay the most?
Right. That's going to be the biggest. Yeah. That's going to be the biggest.
Which one's the biggest payday? Brock, Cena, Roman. Like, pick one. Which one's the biggest payday?
2 or 3 times a year. Cool.
Biggest payday.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Okay, so in a world of streaming services, where can you find breaking news, live sports, and a mountain of entertainment? Look no further than Paramount Plus. With plans as low as $5.99 per month, you'll gain access to the following: live news from both national and local CBS networks, live sports from the NFL, NCAA, PGA, and much, much more. Your favorite MTV, BET, Nickelodeon, and Comedy Central shows from past and present. New original content like The Stand or Star Trek Picard or SpongeBob's Camp Coral. Smithsonian Channel shows and documentaries. Movies and much, much more. Go to baconismypodcast.com, click on the sponsors tab, and click on that Paramount Plus link and open yourself to peak streaming service. That's baconismypodcast.com. Click on the sponsors tab, then on the Paramount Plus link, and dive into thousands of episodes, live TV, original series, and hit movies right now. Do it.
Are you still able to watch wrestling as a fan? Are you able to separate yourself and do that? Or is the promoter in you always kind of going, how's this going to make money? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that?
It's definitely, it's definitely harder. Like, I think Conrad has talked about this before, Conrad Thompson, and he's a friend, and he's a guy that I take a lot of inspiration from. He's another serial entrepreneur, so much more successful than I am. But he was talking about how he's got a buddy who has like a theory that everyone has a 10-year window, where there's a sort of 10-year period where you were just a fan, and that and everything from that era is like the best shit that you'll ever, is your favorite stuff. And that's the stuff that you'll go back to for real escapism. And there's definitely some truth to that. But I don't know if it's a 10-year window necessarily, but I just have certain old stuff that I like to watch that I'll watch over and over again and still have the same amount of escapism and take inspiration from it. As far as watching stuff now, it's not as easy, but I don't know if it's necessarily because I'm sitting there like over analyzing it. I thought, honestly, the truth is a lot of the time it's because I know the people.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So then it's like, it's not as easy to, once you, just because now you have a sort of personal sort of, you have a personal feeling involved.
You're watching through a different lens too.
Yeah. So so you're watching stuff and you're sort of rooting for your friends to just be okay and not get, like, think people, that's this never gets talked about enough, but it's like it bears remembering for fans, especially the ones who are very demanding. But like now more than ever, but it's always been the case. Like we're putting our health at risk every single time we go out.
Yeah.
Like
willingly.
People kind of gloss over that now because they feel like they know so much about everything that it's kind of that, you know, that's almost sort of taken a back seat. But it's like
right.
One false move can lead to disaster.
Yeah.
Like every time. So there's always a part of me when I'm watching my friends do this with each other where I'm going like, I want you to come out the other end in one piece.
Yeah.
Like
that's
I want you to do it well, and I'm taking a great amount of interest in it on a sort of personal and professional level. But yeah, part of it is always like, don't get hurt.
Yeah,
be safe. You know, there's a reason why most of the boys say to each other before they go, "Be safe."
Yeah.
You know, they don't say they say have a good. Yeah, they'll say have a good match. You know, like but it's usually be safe is like the last thing out because you know we're the ones who know. Like you can do everything right. This is the only business where one false move can lead to disaster, but even if you do things well, it's still going to hurt. You're still going to screw yourself up. I've been relatively fortunate in my career that I've had in terms of injuries, I've had a pretty good run, right? Like I have
on wood over here.
Right.
We got it.
Yeah, it's. But if I listed off the injuries I've had to a regular person, they would go, "Oh my God."
Right.
Like, what? You know, like, because when you list them all, it sounds like, you sound like a madman.
Well, and you guys, you know, like collectively come back in a few months from injuries that retire other pro athletes.
Right.
Conan, like, you know, one of the reasons me and Conan, I already talked about Conan earlier, but one of the reasons Conan and I have a good relationship, I think, or one of the reasons why he respects me is because I tore my bicep in Mexico on a tour for AAA. And not only did I finish the tour, 2 more dates, but I went home, scheduled the surgery, and then when they scheduled the surgery, it was like I had these other dates for AAA the following week. And I called Conan and said, all right, look, my surgery is scheduled for this date. If you can promise me that you'll put me in there with guys who are safe and it's in like 6-man, you know, trios matches in Mexico. Right, yeah. He's like, I was like, if you can, I'll be there. I said, you know, I need to know that they're guys I can trust, but I'll be there. And he's like, okay. And he did.
That's awesome.
So taped it up and went back. The doctor cussed me out after I went back and had surgery. Like I came to from my bicep surgery. That's the worst injury I ever had. I mean, by a long way. The torn bicep tendon, and that's relatively normal in wrestling. But
yeah,
I remember coming out of surgery. The doctor was standing there, and he was like a young guy. He was around my age. You know, I'm like 34, so he was probably about that age then. And he was like an athlete, lifted weights and stuff. So, you know, he was the right surgeon for me to have because he sort of knew, like, you know, the kind of stress that the body was going under. And he came and Mickey was standing there and he goes, so you didn't wrestle on this arm again, did you? After you heard it. And I went, why? And he's like, he just looked at me and went, don't fucking lie to me. He's like, he goes, you had a hematoma in your arm the size of a golf ball, you dumb motherfucker. And he's like cussing me out after he's done the surgery. He's like, you're fine. Right. Like, the surgery was a great success. He's like, that arm's going to be strong. He's like, this arm's going to be stronger than your other one now. And he's like, but you're a dumbass. Like, and he just like, it's just like cussing me out. Like, I can't believe you went back and did that, you idiot. Like,
you know, and then you said, all right, I got to go to Mexico and wrestle some more.
I'm good for next week, right?
But even then, I said, you know, how long am I going to be out? He's like 6 months. I was probably working in 3.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, you guys really push yourselves. It does deserve to be talked about more, and it does deserve to be respected a lot more by fans and stuff. That we can, as fans, we can get detached a little bit, and we can start to think like, well, you owe us a show, and like, no, you don't.
I haven't really talked about this much, but I know, like I said, there's been a lot of rhetoric about my lack of activity and stuff, and it's like, you guys don't know what injuries I'm dealing with,
right?
Like you don't know, you have no idea. Like, so right. Do you want me to go and like wrestle on a bunch of independent shows and wrestle on other people's television shows and stuff like that, and then not be able to deliver like for our pay-per-view? Like,
right.
And for what? Just because you wrote a tweet,
right? Because
right. You said, because you've decided that because you've decided that that you have to like this wrestler more than me. So because you're a fan of this wrestler, you've decided you have to be against me. Like, right. Come on, man, this is weak. Like,
well, you gotta also realize, like, these guys that write those tweets, I'd love to see them get through the first workout of training.
Well, or I'd love them to go do a show where they wrestle for like 20-25 minutes, which is really hard to do.
Yeah.
And then come back and like this is a true story. So like the Crockett Cup 2019, one of my best matches I've ever had, me and Marty Skrull, right? I thought we tore the house down, and like really pushed myself to the limit with that match. Just did all this cool stuff. We had Tommy Young there to do like instructions, and like we did all stuff. Well, I bled. It was rare, but like I bled, and it was a gusher. It was bad, right?
Right.
And I put in 25 minutes, and it's like done all this stuff, get through it. We had this great match. I come back, and there's like cornets there and the rock and roll, and all these guys are like, oh shit, that was a great match, brother. Like, you okay? Blah, 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 blah. One guy came back, and I won't say who it was. He wasn't a wrestler though. He was someone from the office. Mm-hmm. And he just goes, there was a lot of blood. And it's like, I would love these people who talk shit to go put themselves through all that for 25 minutes and then not even get a thank you, right? You know what I mean? And
right,
and then
right.
and then just get told that was a lot of blood.
Like, buddy.
Yeah.
Wait a
like,
minute.
Can't you
wow,
control
like
your
really,
blood,
your
like
blood
loss better?
Yeah, like and you said, and like, and I'm just like, that's the harder part of this. Like,
yeah.
People talk about the bumps and the traveling and this and that. It's like, no, try doing it for the first time, and then like what, and then like when you realize that you're just a cog in a machine, like, yeah, and then you wonder why wrestlers like get pissed off when fans are like trying to tell them how to live that, try to tell them how to do their careers, or like critiquing them and stuff, and it's like, you have no idea, like, you have no idea what we go through.
It's yeah.
You lose your shit at your job if your boss is mean to you one day,
right?
Well, like, and look, and it wasn't, and this, and I don't, this was not cold and callous or like malicious or anything.
Absolutely, but
and later on, I had that conversation with that person, and when you realize that, I said, I said, look, I don't care. I kind of found humor in it, but I'm just letting you know that, like, when someone goes out there and puts everything on the line and like bleeds for their art and puts all the puts themselves through all that, and then the first thing they hear is, oh, that was a lot of blood. Like, that's hard. Yeah. You might want to consider that,
Right. Yeah.
And right away he was like, oh man, I'm so sorry, I didn't even think about that. Like, you're right. Like, that was, he was totally
right.
He was just totally
maybe don't lead with that.
Because
maybe don't lead.
But it's just because we're in it every day. So it's like, we're just, we're thinking of, he was just immersed in the business side of it. So he's like, he's not thinking to himself, yeah, that might not be the best way, that, this might be worth a conversation to have tomorrow, or like, it's not something you say right now,
well, you guys are presented as superheroes so much that sometimes people might forget the human is in there, getting beat up and putting their life out there and bleeding.
Well, and unfortunately, the irony is that the better at it that you are, in terms of presenting a sort of persona and stuff, is like the more people forget the fact that you're a human underneath it.
Yeah, I'm like super glad you brought that up because I don't think that's been brought up before.
Yeah, we've had a few.
We've had a lot of like cool, like, like with do you look at things with a producer eye and stuff like that?
Right.
But the human element of wrestling and the real, this is why it's a sport. I think that's super important. And I think that to our non-wrestling listeners, I feel like this is important for them to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. Like sometimes we'll have people that are non-wrestling fans that jump on to listen to us talk to musicians or talk to an actor or something like that. And sometimes they're like, all right, I'm not really that into wrestling. And it's like, okay, but you have to realize that like we're bringing people on that are passionate about what they do.
Right.
And so passionate about what they do that they like give everything to it. And then we get that story and talk to them about it.
We talked about my son being backstage at stuff earlier, and people always ask Mickey and I, like, is he going to get into wrestling? I'm like, well, first of all, he's 6, like, relax. But then so
he's already beaten everybody on the roster.
The thing I take from it is I go, look, the reason that I like to have it, he was backstage at all the NWA Power tapings, and he's been backstage at Monday Night Raw, and he's been at, Wembley Arena for Impact stuff and that. And my philosophy on it is not because I want him to get into the business, but I want him to be around engaged, passionate people who are absolutely dialed in to what they're doing and are doing what they love. And like, so you can see the difference between, a job and a career.
Yeah. It's inspiring when you're around people or talking to people that are like that. And it pushes you to do
my thing is like, he can learn all kinds of stuff at school, but you can't learn that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, and it's my responsibility as a parent that, if I can provide access to things for him that will help him in life, like I'm going to do that. I'm going to take that every time. And for me, I saw that as a perfect opportunity to expose him to a type of energy and a type of inspiration that very, very few people will get a chance to plug into at such a young age. And one way or another, I feel like that's going to help him.
Oh, absolutely. It can't not, what I mean? Like,
that's awesome.
That's awesome. Absolutely awesome. Dude, I got to say, this has been a super cool conversation. I really, we both really appreciate you taking the time with us, but just on the real side of it, it's been super fun and inspiring also.
I appreciate it. Sorry about the snafus with the internet and everything.
No, don't worry about that.
No worries. That's what editing's for. We got that.
Yeah.
So we just want to thank you so much. We'll give you another opportunity right now to just tell everybody where they can find you, where they can find the products, where they can find your site, where they can
your suits,
where they can catch NWA, all of it. Just
my suits. I have a line with Nazir suits, but yeah, Nazir is a guy in Miami he's a phenomenal designer and tailor, and he reached out to me after NWA Power, the first season of Power. He reached out and was like, "Hey, I recognize this one fabric that you picked from this," and he's like, "That's one of the fabrics I use." And he's like, "I love the way that you put that one together." And he's like, I'm in Miami and I design suits and make suits, and I would love to make one for you." And I was like, "I would love to let you." And it just kind of went from there. And then it was like, "Hey, I think you should have your own line." And because
you are 100%.
Thankfully, people were buying suits because I told them to. So cool, man.
Yeah, man. One of the best dressed men in wrestling. 100%.
I'm going to
100%.
But you can get those at Nazir Suits, NASIR Suits.com. My supplement company, Legacy Sports Nutrition, LegacySups.com. You can use code BaconPod for 10% off everything. We've got a whole bunch of new products. We're about to launch some CBD stuff next, so that's cool. Look, for me, at Real Nick Aldis on Twitter, at Nick Aldis on Instagram, everything to do with the NWA is all at NWA on all the socials. And if you are a lapsed fan, if you miss wrestling as opposed to kind of sports entertainment or the typical fare that you see today, or you just feel like something different. You don't have to dislike we don't need you to dislike other wrestling to like this one. But if you, like I said earlier, I promise that this will be unlike any other wrestling pay-per-view you will see this year. And it's Wrestling at the Chase. It's a chance to witness history because it hasn't been there since 1984. So it's the historic Chase Plaza. And by the time this goes out, you will probably be aware of someone who's going to be there that will absolutely embody the spirit of the NWA and the Chase. And it's just, for us, it's just like the final piece of the puzzle that's just going to make this an unforgettable, unmissable night.
We'll be keeping our eyes open for that, and
we're
maybe
going to be watching it.
And that's on Fite TV pay-per-view, live exclusively on Fite TV pay-per-view. Wrestling at the Chase, NWA 73.
Awesome. Maybe we'll do a watch along. So any of you that get the pay-per-view and buy the pay-per-view, maybe we'll do a watch along with it. We can all talk about it while it's happening and check it out and enjoy the pay-per-view. I'm in. Yeah. All right. Nice.
Cool.
It's a great idea.
Once again, thank you so much, Nick Aldis, NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Man, thanks for being here. Thank you so much.
No worries, guys. Thank you.
It was such a great interview.
We had a great time. Hopefully you guys enjoyed listening to it.
Even if you're a non-wrestling fan.
Yeah, you liked it. You're inspired because the stuff that he was talking about, especially you guys, like when we heard him talking about Cohen and O'Brien and how that pushed him and all that. I like that actually inspired me in a way also. It was super cool. I like that. Like I got that a little bit back when we had Mark Miro on. Yeah. That kind of feeling of anytime I'm around anybody that's a creative or that is working super hard for their passion or their art, like it's super inspiring to me. I hope it was inspiring for all you guys that are listening. I know it is for you too. Like it's the same thing. But guys, check them out. We're gonna do. I think we should do the live stream for their pay-per-view.
73.
Yeah, I think that would be cool. So hopefully you guys will join us for that. Stay up to date on baconismypodcast.com. If you're a patron, jump on the Patreon, and we'll probably do something special for that. Something a little longer, or something a little more in depth and stuff. But other than the baconismypodcast.com, obviously, where we actually have some new T-shirts, you should check them out. Where can they find you, buddy?
I am at me, my own self, Mike, on all of the socials. That's just me, though. Mm-hmm. My band, Something Heavy, which is the music that I put out, that is at Something Heavy Music on all the socials. Jimsy.
I am at Jimmy G's Shoes, one word, on all the socials.
And there's no more underscores.
No more underscores. I got rid of them.
That was a good call.
Yeah, I
That's a great call.
It was a little too much. It was a little too much. So just straight through. Jimmy G's Shoes. And my band Craving Strange. We're Craving Strange Music on Facebook, at Craving Strange on everything else, cravingstrange.net. So check us out there. And they can also find Bacon Is My Passion music.
All over the Spotify's, all over the Apple Music or Crapple Music, whatever you want to say.
If you're listening on Apple Music to this, give us that 5-star review. It actually just helps us get heard more. If you're watching
algorithms,
Stranger
it's all about
TV,
the algorithms.
The algorithm says, please subscribe and hit the bell. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for hanging out. Always ask yourself every single time,
what's your bacon?
Cheers. Later.
What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. And if one episode just isn't enough for you and you need a little bit more Bacon Is My Podcast, head on over to patreon.com/Bacon Is My Podcast. Over there, you will get access to monthly live streams, discounts on merch, early and commercial-free access to Bacon Is My Podcast episodes. Some of them are even extended surprise giveaways, additional shows, including Tasting Is My Passion, and, of course, Cooking with Bacon Is My Passion. And oh yeah, you get a crap ton of music. That's right, all of Jimmy and Mike's bands, previous, current, whatever it is, you will get access to that music, demos, and much, much more. Just head on over to patreon.com/Bacon is My Podcast and learn what the hoopla is all about.